Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Night Bee Chat with me. And hey, Laura, I see you got tired of the other chat. All the contradictions I'll say at that time, plus all the so-called beginners, especially the ones that have been beginners for the last 10 years. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, I got through, what was it, the Storm Debbie. We really didn't get a whole lot of rain today. We were on the eastern side of it, the outer fringes of it, but we still got some rain, which we were much, much needed here. It's been so dry and all that kind of stuff. Let me get situated here. Hey, Mike and Norman and Hope and Shane and Roy and Dan and everybody. Get my list of names here all situated. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put up the link. Hey, Matt. And, let's see. All right, the link is pinned. We are good. Yeah, Laura. I was just getting ready, getting tired of all the squabbling. Hey there, Brian from Flower Street out in Colorado. Hey, Richard. Oh, my. So, anyway, like I say, the weather's good. Sun's starting to come out. It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. Going to get into, they say flood warnings, not around here. It's the rain's gone. And, hey, Kim. Tomorrow I'm going to get into my hives and I got, well, not all of them, but just check them out, a few of them, especially the nukes. Make sure nobody's getting ready to swarm because of overpopulation. And I got the one hive that I'm having problems with the queen. She's there, but she's not laying very much. And Matt needs to know, hey, does anybody, let me put it up here for everybody to read. Now, Formic Pro has an impact on hive beetles. Not that I know of, that I can think of. Hey, Lynn. AGW is coming in. My goodness, got his new shop, is it? That's the honey house, is it? You there?
Yeah, almost.
Okay, I hear you.
Long day today. I mowed 3 bee yards and made 47 ApiGuard applications today and broke down one hive that was overpopulated and did a small split out of it. So been a long
Lynn,
day.
yeah, Lynn wants to know, what are you going to do if it's overpopulated? Well, I'll try to equalize and pull brood frames out, put brood frames in. Maybe there'll be another hive there that's weak. Here comes Laura. Good to see you, Laura.
Hi there. I don't know how to do this, but I figured it out. Yep.
That's cool. I'm glad to be that you're on there. Just let everybody else know we were on another, I'll say, local bee chat, and a lot of beginners, I guess. A lot of older folks that should know something, but they seem like they don't never know anything.
Right.
And they don't, we were to put everybody else, let everybody else know in the chat. We were talking about a mite program. What's your mite program, or what are you doing in your hives type of thing as far as mites? And most of them didn't have any type of program. They don't even know, I'm going to say, the parameters of each type of mite treatment.
It is
being,
confusing. It takes a long time to figure out which mite treatment does what you can use, what you can't use.
Mhm.
It's taken me a while to figure it all out. But
Yeah,
yeah.
just um I don't know, hey, Pastor Larry. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then, and kind of what gets me is I'll just say George. He kind of button heads all the time, and I don't like to do that. I don't, It's like, what is the problem here?
You are very congenial. I am impressed with the way you handle everybody.
Well, it's like the other gal talking about queen excluders, and I says, a queen excluder is a tool. It's not just for honey. You can do so many different things with a queen excluder.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to the group, and this is out to everybody in the group tonight, is that they were worried about washing a queen when they were doing a mite wash. I said, well, fine. I says, pull the brood frame up, shake all the bees off, put a queen excluder on, put another box up on top, put that brood frame or 2 or 3 brood frames upstairs with no bees. Within 20 to 30 minutes, those nurse bees will be up there on them frames. I've done it. And you can shake them bees off. They're nurse bees. You know the queen's not there. You know you're not going to kill your queen.
Right.
And voila, that's a good tool. Now, that same process can be used if you want to transfer brood from one hive to the other and you can't find the queen. If you want to take bees along with it, or let's say I want to make in the springtime um, uh, mating boxes for new queen cells. I want to take brood frames. I want bees, populate a 2-frame mating box. All I got to do is do that. I know I don't have to worry about the queen. Put those bees and frames in that box and close them up, and voila, it's populated.
Right.
And it's just so many uses that most people they just get stuck on just for honey, and it's all that stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Well, we tried to help
yeah,
increase their
and it's
knowledge.
like a lot of them talk about. Yeah, you should try to do some mite checks. And it's like Mr. G, talked about, he acted like you're supposed to do 100% mite check for all. I said, that's fine if you got 4 or 5 hives,
Right.
check every one of them.
Right.
But I said, you got, like he has 50 hives, he tells you to. I said, you're going to do a percentage on those. You're going to do 10%, 15%, and he's talking about a hive that has, let's say, 10 mites in it, a high count. Well, I don't care if it's 1 mite, 2 mites, or 3 mites. I'm still going to treat
Right.
across the board.
Right. Yeah. I
No,
didn't hear your answer on that one, but like somebody did ask, it might have been you. If you have like no mites or 1 or 2, are you still going to treat? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to treat.
that was what I was trying to get my point across, which I was kind of cut off there.
Mm-hmm.
The going rate now is 1 mite, you're in pretty good shape. 0 to 1. If you got 2 mites, you better be thinking serious about treating. 3 mites, you better be treating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, and I need to talk to somebody, if you have a half a cup of bees, 300 bees, all right, you have 3 mites. You're supposed to take the 300 bees and divide that by 3, correct, JW?
Yep,
And it's
1%.
supposed to, and that says that's a 1% infestation. If you got 6, it's a 2% infestation. If you got 9 in that thing, it's a 3% infestation. But that's not what anybody does anymore. It's either 1 mite in the bottom of that cup, 2 mites, or 3 mites in that cup or more. If you're, and that's so I think, our beekeeping professionals out there say, well, then we're talking about 1% or, if it's 1%, you're treating. If it's a 0.5%, you're treating. If it's 0.25%, you're treating, or, it's okay. I mean, I haven't got, I need to find somebody to give me a little more clarification on that. But that's,
well, when the inspector came was it last year, or
yeah.
even the year before, and he came in the spring. He had a cancellation. He was nearby. He called me up like, oh, you wanted to sell nukes, you want me to come and inspect this afternoon? I'm like, yeah, sure, come on over. So in the spring when he came, that's when I had zero. Like, I'm like, I'm looking at the bottom of the thing and I'm seeing stuff. He goes, no, those are bee parts. You have no mites in here. So, you treat, but if that was in the spring, that was no mites. If you don't treat by the fall, you're definitely going to get mites. So you need
well, it
to
was like
treat.
tonight on that other chat. And like you were trying to tell them.
Yeah.
It's like, I said, I'm thinking to myself, why, there's a guy named Ramsey out here, Dr. Ramsey. He told me this years ago when he finally proved to all the science community what he came up with and proved them all wrong after they've been talking about it for 30 plus years, is that you need to start in July, August, and September. You need to have those bees 90% mite free for them to raise up the last set of bees that are 99 or 98% mite free so they can get through the winter. If you wait till September like we used to, you got sick bees going through the winter and they won't get through the winter because they're sick.
Wow.
And
I
all
just
that.
follow my mentor. I didn't know that Dave Ramsey was the one that identified that.
Yeah, I had him come to my club before he became a doctor, a PhD.
Oh.
He was 3 months before he got that PhD.
Mm-hmm.
He was writing his thesis in our parking lot.
Nice.
And then he's been at Chester, and he came in there that night, and that was when we were all treating in September once a year because that was just the way we did it. And back then, you could have 12 mites and, it's no problem. And you could get through. Things have changed over the last 15 years. And he came in there, and the gist of it all it was, he says, you treated in September, and by the time March rolled around, all your bees died, right? And we're like, yeah, how'd you know? He says, because you treated too late. He said, you need to treat back in July and August. So you have two hatches of bees. You're getting those hatches cleaned up of mites. So the third or that second generation of hatched bees will raise up a cleaner generation of bees. The next 21 days of bees are going to be even cleaner. And by September, you want them as clean as possible. And he says, then you will get your bees through the winter. And he says the way you're doing it now, where we were just treating in September, his analogy was, he said they're like cancer patients. They try to keep on, they try to hold on, they try to hold on. They get almost to March to spring so they could repopulate, and they
die.
They can't. Here comes another.
Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Nancy. So that's how it was. And that was when he talked about that 6 or 7 years ago when he came to my club. That when I left that night, I completely changed my mite treatment program and everything. And then I've been evolving it over the last several years to try to, I had one guy on the internet, YouTube, and he had a little questionnaire. What mite treatments do you use? And hey, Nancy, you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Nancy, I got the courage to come on tonight.
Hi, Laura. I know. And we just left the beach yet. That just is so frustrating. But anyway.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So
Oh my
anyway,
God. Go ahead.
so anyway, what was I going to tell you?
Dave
The
Ramsey.
questionnaire on this here recently in the last couple of months. Now, another guy that's trying to figure things out in Minnesota. And he asked in the questionnaire, what mite treatments do you use? And I said, all of them. And then he come back with the next mite treatment. And he says, how often you treat? I said, 8 months out of the year. And they're like, what? You know, I said, I start at the end of July and I go through all the way through winter until the 1st of March. You know, and I'm doing, you know, and next week, I think the bee inspectors, I've asked her to come in again this year. It's been 3 years since I've been tested for the National Honeybee Survey. So she's coming over to do a complete check and submit all this, bees and larvae and all these different samples to go to the National Honeybee Survey laboratories to check my mite counts. The last time it was a 0.2. 1.0 is the normal standard. So I did well. Now last time that she checked in October, she was late. And I was like, frantic about getting things done in the April. She's coming in August this year. So it might not be as good as that because I'm just starting my mite treatments and stuff like that.
So Charlie, did you say that your inspector does mite treatments for you or does mite washes?
She pulls samples for the National Honeybee Survey.
Oh, that's right. I remember now.
So she might have, I'll say 20 apiaries, let's say. That you got to have at least 8 hives to do it, minimum.
Yeah.
And then she comes out and she pulls, she takes samples of live bees, samples of dead bees and alcohol. She takes samples of your larvae. She'll take an open brood frame and smack it and let it come out onto a sanitized stainless steel sheet. And then she'll gather all that larvae and stuff up, put it in a bag or whatever, and then ship it to the laboratory. And then about 3 or 4 months later, you finally get results and stuff.
Yeah, we can do that in Montgomery County up here. I just haven't done it yet. I'd like to. I think I get inspected in the spring, and I'm just so busy that I just kind of forget about it. But I really would like to do that. Maybe I'll schedule my inspection later in the year next year.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way: it's a really good test. You got professionals doing it. That's what they do for a living in the science, in the laboratory and stuff like that. And then for you as the beekeeper, they'll say, well, what's your mite loads? Well, here's the official paper and it says this, and there's none of this hemming and hawing. Well, you should have done it this way or that way. I didn't do it. The pros did it, and the laboratory brought it back out. So they know, much. I mean, they get down to the point where they tell you that she took in, I think the last test that they did, I get a count. Yeah, we did 1,106 bees in the count, where they actually count every bee and stuff like that. So they do a very thorough count. So I like to try to, it gives me a reference of where I'm at and everything in my bee.
So which treatments do you use?
I would like to use Apricot right now, but it's been so hot. And right now I've been on Aprivar because I went out to Nobby. I bought 260 packs of Aprivar. So I did Aprivar. I started that the 3rd week of July, which will take me to the 31st of August, which is a 6-week treatment. You put that strip in there for every 5 frames of bees. So if it's a double deep, you're going to put 4 strips in. If it's a nuke, I'm putting in this 5 frames over 5 frames, which I usually all my nukes are. I'm putting a strip in every box. The problem with the aprivar, there is some discrepancy now whether or not the mites are getting immune to it or, used to the medication. Um, Actually, we're going to have a speaker in my club coming in November, either October or November. I think it's November. Mite resistant to amitraz, which is the active ingredient for aprivar. Going to talk about that and what the testing and stuff that they found. And then after that, then I'd use Formic Pro in around September when the temperature is 85 or less.
Mm-hmm.
I was like the guy tonight. He's talking about using Formic Pro, I think it was. And I mean, I don't know what the temperature is going to be next week, but if it's decent, that'd be a good treatment. As long as the first 4 days, and then after that, if it's 75, 80 degrees for 4 days, that's perfect. And
we
then
really cooled off here, Charlie. I'm down to 73 right now.
all right.
We got
And
over 90.
well, I'm down to 77 right now, and but we've had the storm go through and take out a lot of humidity and take out. And I think also I find that formic products, formic acid, if humidity has a major part in that. I think high humidity intensifies that gas off and is detrimental. I try to find something that has low humidity when I'm using that. Then after that, through the winter time, I try to use oxalic acid vapor at least once or twice a month, as long as it's 45 degrees out. That way the bees are not flying, but they've broken cluster. They're loose inside that hive and everything. And I do that once or twice a month. And I like this past year, I didn't do it in January because I was at Nobby out in Kentucky. And that was the only week that we actually had a 45-degree day. And then the next month was February, and I did it twice that month. But I think it was the last one was right at the end of the month, right before March. And then I'm done for the year as far as treating until the end of July of this year. So that's my program that I developed and all. So,
but you're doing
what, Nancy?
Charlie, you're doing splits too. So you're doing brood breaks, right? Aren't you doing splits?
I haven't done any splits. No,
no,
I'm not doing any brood breaks. The problem I had this year was I did brood breaks. All right. Yeah. My hives died, and I had to, and then I also had I had old queens, of which I dequeened a hive for a week, and then I put in new queens, which reversed everything around where they're gangbusters right now.
So you did breaks in the spring.
Some of it. Yeah. Now, like my nukes. Now, what I did there, I sold the nukes off like you do, and then you have, I'll say mine's 5/5, so I sold 5 frames with the original queen. Then I had to let them either make a queen or get a queen in.
Yeah.
And that was
I just let her I just let them get it. I did bring in 4 cells this year, but I haven't done that in probably 5 years. But yeah, so that's a mite management there as well. So you add that to your months. But I think successful beekeepers fight mites all year long. There's no how many treatments do you do? I mean, oh gosh, I don't know. All of them, all the time.
Like I say, I treat an average of 8 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And I found there was a young fella that I talked to years ago at one of our state meetings, and he said, I'm starting to do oxalic acid vapor once a month in the wintertime. And that stuck in my head. I didn't use it right away. I didn't use the idea right away. And a couple years later, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do, well, number one, in the wintertime, it's a 98% kill because it's the most effective compared, like everybody talked about. Now, oxalic acid vapor is great if it's in the summertime with a lot of brood, but you've got a high mite infestation, then it's a great knockdown product. but it's not going to keep them knocked down for very long because of all the brood. But in the wintertime, it's a
Yeah.
definitely a good product to use because your brood is very low, except for the folks that are in this chat down in Louisiana and like that, like Brad down there at the Cajun Homestead and Lee from Kodiak Farms. They're down in an area where they don't have winters. Let me go here and answer a few questions here. I got Matt here. He had 10s and 20s, and I'm using a full dose of formic in hopes to save them in time for winter. I may even use Aprivar in September. I would, Matt, if
Yeah,
you've got
that's a great
formic
idea.
on now, Matt, and it's cool, and you're up there next to Buffalo, New York. Hopefully your weather is, let's say, 75, 80 degrees, low humidity. Put it on there for 2 weeks. And then, let's see, this is what, August, July,
Yeah,
August.
so
he should be
Aprivar
good.
in September, and then AO and vaporize October, real heavy, close every 3 days for a 2-week period in October, maybe even again in November, and then do a December, January, February AOV. Right, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, I
That's
just
what we do.
do it about every 2 weeks, one shot a week, one shot every 2 weeks. But I think it's a little bit late in September to use Guard because it's going to shut the queen down. You want her to keep laying. I would do the 2 weeks for Formic Pro, pull that out, and I'd throw in Aprivar in there for 6 weeks.
What he's saying. That's what he's
Is that what
saying,
he's saying?
Charlie. Yeah, he's saying Aprivar in September, and then
Yeah,
I added
but what I'm getting at is Aprivar is going to run. Got to remember, 4 weeks in September. You got 2 more weeks, so he's going into October. You should be feeding by that time. So I would do Aprivar or Formic right now and wait the 2 weeks, and then throw in the. I would count out the weeks, like the last 2 weeks of this month, and put the Aprivar in there. Run that for 6 weeks. Get it out of there by the end of September. And I don't know what the flow is like up there. I know he said he had some flow.
Well, we might want to do a wash after the Aprivar. Do a wash, see kind of where you're at, and then,
Hey, Todd. Yeah. Russell. Matt's new at it, and but yeah, I would back it up with Aprivar and then do a wash and see where you're at, and then I would do oxalic acid vapor or maybe do a dribble. I'm not real. I did a dribble over the years ago, but I went to vapor, stuck with that. Can you feed with Aprivar? Yeah, go ahead and feed. It isn't something that you're going to harvest. There's a lot of controversy over that. So JW, we've been letting you sit there. What's how I see you got that's your bee shop or whatever?
Yeah, that's my little combination. Bee house, greenhouse. I do a little greenhouse in the spring.
Okay.
I'm not, of course I heard you folks, you're all know one another out there, I guess. I don't, if someone asks me for what I do or for advice, I'll tell them what I do. I'm kind of like Mike Berry, but it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's kind of like arguing politics to the old timers. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. And so I don't even try to, if people ask me, I tell them what I do. And if not, that's the reason you never see me put out videos very often. I'll put out videos of what's going on, but I don't put out videos of what I do. I don't try to tell people
I'm not trying. I'm just showing them what I do. If they want to, ask more questions about it, I'll tell them about it. I mean, it's like everything else. It's beekeeping is local, and I mean, like Laura and Nancy live in the same state and probably not too far away from each other.
I think we're an hour away from each other.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, there
20
can be
miles
there
maybe.
can be a major difference between where
Yeah.
y'all live
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. But yeah, Matt, I see where you say the bee inspector was there for the washes, but yeah, you need to throw the kitchen sink at them and make sure that you can keep your bees alive.
Well, that's basically what I do. I use, I use oxalic. I use the vapor. I haven't yet. I'm going to try some extended release pads, but I haven't used them yet.
Right.
I've used Formic. I use Apigard. I use it, Apivar on occasion. I'm kind of like Bob Benny. I'm just trying to stay away from the.
Well, I would like to too. I mean,
Personally,
I would like to, instead of using Apivar here starting in July, I would have much rather done Apigard. But
Yeah.
I watched another video here, a guy in the Carolinas, I think. He put 20 feet, was like, I'm going to say probably 90 degrees down there.
Yeah.
He put 25 grams of Apigard in. He did have the coroplast board underneath his screen bottom. I don't know whether he had his entrances wide open or not, but in the video, 3 hours later, he's got half of his hive sitting on the outside of the box because they can't stand the vapor, and it's half the dosage to begin with.
Well, I don't use any harsh treatments, Formic or Apigard on any of my nukes or smaller colonies. All I use on them is oxalic acid.
Well, these were 10 frame deep hives, and these things were all over the place. Now, Lynn has OA pads now. That's the approved. I don't know where you can buy them at yet. Whether Man Lake is still Oxy something another pads probably from Vena Pharma. They're not. They're going to be sold by the end of this month sometime.
Oxyvox, I think they call it, or something.
Oxyvioxyl or something like that. Well, anyway, they will be available to the beekeeper public. I think it's by the end of this month, at least in Maryland. I don't, it's one of them things where it's state by state. Yeah, the EPA passed, but then the state has to approve it, that kind of a thing. And all that. So, yeah, I see a lot of people make their own and all. And from what if you watched Bob Benny's video last week, he had him in there. And, yeah, her tablet stinks. Nancy dropped out. So anyway, he stated in there that it may, he started at his philosophy, is my philosophy too, which I tried to state in the other chat. I want to keep an even low amount of mite load across the board throughout the year. Never let it spike. And that was what Bob was trying to do. And he said it kept the mite level at an even keel. If it was 1% infestation, it stayed 1% infestation for, let's say, 60 days. And I do know that another lady in the other chat is in my club. She had a back operation last year, and she stated that she put in homemade pads. I'm going to say this time, I'll say July of last year. And then she finally was able to get into her hives in October of that year. And then she retested, and sure enough, they were at the same level. They never spiked. They just kept at the same level, even keel and everything. So, for me, the oxalic acid, the new product that's coming out might be, it might be a major plus. That way, if you got your mite load down low in September, going into October, you could put them strips in there, maybe get through the winter. Then you wouldn't have to fight your bees at all.
You got the money. Well, that beats cooking that junk up. You know, it's kind of a pain in the rear to make those pads. You know, so
There it is.
whatever
What's
you want to call them.
which honey company? It's Ferroxin oxy acid strips.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the major bee suppliers will have them available pretty soon. And there's Ed. Hey, Ed. So, anyway,
How about your lady friends there, Charlie? How many hives did they run? You know, or?
Laura, how many hives you got?
I have 4 hives and a nuke. Yeah.
4 and a nuke?
I'm sorry?
You say 4 and a nuke? Is that what you said?
And a nuke, but my nuke is kind of like a mini hive. So I've got 2 5 deep frames, and then I have mediums on top.
Yeah.
I wound up with an extra queen. I wasn't going to get rid of her. She was, an emergency queen if I needed one, but so far I don't need it. Yeah. So this is a good year again. Last year I got 773 pounds out of 4 hives. This year, This year is not like last year. This year I got, my count now is 444 pounds out of the 4.5 hives, but it was too much honey. So what I did this year was I put in hog half combs.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have to extract, and it was a lot easier for me. So I still got 400.
How did they work for you? Did they work okay about filling them out?
They did. So what I wound up doing is I put it on maybe a week before the honey flow, which might have been too soon, but that's what I did. I'm learning,
And what time of year was that for you then? April?
Oh, if I could only remember. I didn't write it down, so I'm not quite sure, but let's see. If I look at my notes, yeah, I didn't extract any honey from that hive at all. So it was before the flow. I'll go down and I'll look at my notes. And then what I wound up doing was with the hog half comb, the hive bodies have to be filled with honey for the bees to go into the hog half comb. So I had 2 brood boxes on the bottom, and then I put the hog half comb on top. So yeah, that's what I did. So the 2 broods were filled with honey, and of course the queen was laying in there, and I do demery, so I demeried once a week, and they were filling it out. Now I have 8 frames. I just knew I was never going to be able to lift a 10 frame, so I have the 8 frames. And I actually got Herman Dannenhauer to come to our club. And he came to our club, and I think he did say that the hog half comb is easier to fill out on an 8 frame hive instead of a 10 frame. So they were filling it out pretty well. And then I did have crystallized honey from last year, and I had it in plastic bottles. So what I wound up doing was I cut off the bottom of the plastic bottle, and I put the crystallized honey bottle in the top above the hog half combs, and I put it in like a more of what do you call that top inner cover that's deeper than a normal one? Well, I put it in there because it fit. And they did take that crystallized honey, but you know what? It was crystallized, and instead of decrystallizing, I put it in there, and they took it, and I think that helped fill out the hog half comb. However, all of them are filled out. They're all filled out, and they say you get roughly around 12 ounces, and I weighed them in the cassette, so I don't know how much the cassette is, but I got between 11 and 14 ounces in these cassettes. So now I'll try to sell them and see how it goes. Yeah.
That's the hard part.
You know what? You can see my messy house. I'll walk downstairs and I'll show you what I got. So the basement is being redone. The tile was lifted. So everything that was in the basement is all over my house until the new carpet comes in. But I'm walking down.
Okay. How you doing, Joey? Unmute.
Pretty good. Doing good. Trying to stay out of the heat.
Oh, yeah, it's still hot down there, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of
Stepping
my
over
sons
boxes.
came down to Gulf Shores. Joey said it was hot and humid down there. He's coming home.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
All
don't
right.
want to mess things up too badly here because, again, the basement. Here, see, this is my dining room table at the moment.
I'm gonna make you large.
So this is what I've got. This one is 13.3.
That's pretty looking. Yeah, now bring it. There you go, right there.
Yep, 13.3.
Bring it towards closer to you. There you go. There you're in center picture.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are nice looking.
That's really nice looking.
And yeah, so I've got a few of them. I
Turn it
still
to
have
the
some
turn
in
it on the
freezer.
side so we can see the sides, Laura.
Okay.
Bring it close. Okay, bringing it closer to your center of you. There you go.
I'm hold on. Maybe this will be easier. There we go.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
That's nice. That they did a great job.
they did,
Yeah.
and they're all filled out.
Yeah,
So-
usually I've seen them where people will get maybe half the box like that if they're
whole
lucky.
thing. Yeah. Now, I don't have white capping, but that's okay. They're fine. So evidently the this must be more carniolans. Carniolans are more like wet and crinkly looking. And then the
But they're still
Italians have
capped.
white cappings.
Yeah.
They're capped. Oh yeah, they're capped. So let's see. I took my first extraction April 20th. So I guess I put these on around April 20th. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't really remember. Yeah. But
Well, the
anyway.
big thing is, I believe, is with that is good. What do you got? You got your extractor there. I had one like that.
This is my dining room.
I see some
Crazy.
bee boxes over there. No, yeah.
Yeah. So that's that.
You must be much more clean in your extracting than I am. I've usually got honey all over the floor and every place. I'd have a total mess.
Well,
But,
I will
no,
say I have a drip pan. So yeah, so I have the extractor, and of course, it's not if, it's when you forget to put the honey gate on, right? And so now I have a drip pan underneath the 5-gallon bucket.
Forget to
Yeah.
turn it off. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Minnesota Mike, we got a little bit of rain here today. We were on the eastern side of that storm where we got some really nice, I'll say not severe downpours, just steady rain for maybe an hour or two, and then it would quit for a while, and then it would rain again. And we did get a little bit of wind this morning, maybe 20, 30 miles an hour, enough that made me want to lock up my barn doors with, chain them down with ratchet straps and stuff like that.
My husband said there was a tornado in Delaware.
I don't
probably
know. I
between
mean,
you
there
and
was
me.
one on the west side of Baltimore, Interstate 70, which is closer to Washington, D.C. There was one out there about 8 o'clock this morning. And what they were saying was it's the radar showed, the way they read the radar, that there's the storm was, the cloud or the storm was twisting on the radar, but it didn't mean that there was actually a funnel cloud or anything. They had more heavy duty rain out there about 50 miles west of me, 30 to 50 miles west. So we didn't get the real bad stuff, but we got nice rain.
And you're by Rising Sun area, right?
Yeah, I'm about 45 minutes to an hour south of Rising Sun.
Oh, okay.
I'm Rising Sun's the next county over.
Okay.
I'm on the other side of the Susquehanna River. But anyway, we got through it today. It rained and all that, and we were good. I know that Lynn there, Greater Baltimore, she lives a little bit more west of me, maybe a half an hour at the most, and she wasn't really close to it. It's where they had EAS bee conference, the Eastern Apiculture Society bee conference. They were kind of like in the middle of it out there, you know. And I talked to one of my members that went to it this week, and he said I didn't even go out there where they had, you know, beehives outside for testing because of the bad weather and everything out there. And but you know, they didn't seem to have that much of a problem out there. It's about 2 counties over is where they had more rain than I did. More downpours, I guess you would call it. Severe downpours. So yeah, it's all over with. By this evening at 4:30, 5 o'clock, the sun was coming out, and all that rain and stormage had moved out of the area up more towards Pennsylvania, New York area, and everything. So, but you and then JW, you were talking about what were you doing in your eyes about treating or something here recently today? What was it you were doing?
Oh, I put on 47 applications of Apigard this afternoon. So I did a little bit different. I cut the dosage down depending on the size of the hives. You know, my most of my stuff's 8 frame, but I've still got 10 or 12 10 frame situations. I'll go the full. I'll go the 50 on them. Most of mine, if I've got busted down into a deep and a medium on the 8 frames, I just go 30 grams, and in 10 days I'll give them another 30. It's the way I do it. I don't follow the instructions on the container necessarily.
Is that the
Size
Apigard?
of the hive as to how much I give them, and I haven't had any trouble in the past with them.
That was Apigard, JW?
Sir?
30 grams of what? Apigard?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about. And obviously, that was one thing that I noticed. I watched Bob Benny's video from last year, and he said if it was a single deep box, he would only do 30 grams, 30 or 33 grams, maybe, or 25 to 30 grams. And if it was a double deep and it was good weather, he would do a full dose, which would be 50 grams and or 50, milliliters, grams, whatever.
I've still got one 8 frame with 2 deeps and 2 mediums, and that's the only one that I put 50 grams on. I did.
Well, I think that that I was helping my friend over here that helps me out. He's got 8 frame equipment, and that was one of the things that I learned about 8 frame is that you're 2 frames less, and it's kind of like you got to add, you got, in order to make up for those 2 frames less from a 10 frame to 8 frame, you got to put another box on. And I found that trying to do single brood chamber management with 8 frame, that don't work. But now I think it would work fine if it was a double deep. I think
deep, Charlie.
Right. I mean, what I'm getting at is being a double deep and putting a queen excluder on and honey supers on. I think that they would put the honey upstairs just as efficient as a single brood chamber in 10 frame. I'm not sure about that. Hey, Rick, good to see you back on.
Do you use queen excluders, Joey?
I had got away from it for the most part. Every now and then a hive will get one, but I think I'm going back to it because this year everything, it didn't matter if I had 3 boxes, 4 boxes, 5 boxes. They went up to the top and worked their way back down. So Yeah,
As far as the honey
kind of
supers go?
messing up my. Huh?
As far as honey supers, you mean?
Yeah, they'd run up in the top box and then work their way back down. So it just kind of mess up a good clean wax. So I'll probably be purchasing me about 40
That's
good
kind of the reason
queen
I use
excluders.
them, but
What, at queen excluders, Joey?
if I don't,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've
So
got
you're
a
been
saying
real-
using
you
those
weren't
plastic-
using queen excluders and they were going up into the honey boxes past the.
Yeah, I really never had any trouble of them going in the third box too much. Every now and then you'd get one that would. But here lately, it didn't matter how many boxes on it. They'd work their way up and then just go back down. They'd go up there and anything that got drew out, they'd push her up there and let her start laying and then go back down again.
Mhm.
My bees was doing that.
Even if
Joe.
they had a good rainbow in the second deep, a good rainbow of honey, they'd still cross it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up Rick Sutton's in, and he's a commercial beekeeper. He's telling that he uses an April guard. That's his go-to method. Now, Rick, could you? I'd like for you to come on in the live part if you had a video or a camera, but if you can't, that's fine too. But my question is with April guard, I know that you're in Kentucky. I'll say in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, you got your hives down there in Florida. What about the temperature that when you're applying April guard? And that's my biggest concern is, if it's 90 degrees, high humidity, I'm figuring at least 25 grams, as far as the maximum amount. Do you do anything different as far as keeping the bees from absconding because it's too hot or anything like that? So that's my question to you, Rick. If you're able to answer that either in the comments or you can come on in on the video if you like to. Just click on the link and that's how you can come in. So anyway, but let's see. But yeah, JW, I agree with you where you kind of, since you got a smaller hive, you kind of back it down because of the cubic feet, I'll say, the cubic inches or whatever. I think that's a very good plausible idea.
Well, I've got some 10 frame hives. Yeah, but most of them still in production, so I haven't treated them yet. I've treated my smaller hives and all my 8 frame stuff. But like I said, I don't use Formic or Apiguard. On all occasions, I use a little Apivar on my nukes. They don't seem to bother them, but anything that's got thymol in it, I'm reluctant to use on my nukes because
Right.
Well, Tom Sosman, not to carry tales on him, I think he killed 7 or 8 hives his last treatment on treating nukes with Apiguard here last week in that hot weather.
Yeah.
I think he smoked them. I don't think they left. I think they died.
And where's it?
That
This is in Illinois or?
Thompson's out with the St. Louis, Missouri area. He's in Thompson. Tom and Melissa in
Oh, Tom, they lost their stuff. Tom and Melissa did.
Yeah, he lost some nukes. I think
Yeah. Now nukes, that's a small hive there. I don't think I would have put them in nukes, or I would put a really super, maybe 20 grams in a nuke.
Well, I just don't use them at all, and I've got some 5 deeps still that haven't got broke down yet. So,
well, thanks, Rick, for coming in for the hoedown. Yeah, can you, Rick Sutton? Can you? There's the link in the top there. If you've got a camera, the maximum I would go would be 30 grams on a high humidity and mostly heat temperature. Okay. And now, Rick, is that a double deep or is that I'll say singles, single deep boxes.
I'm not seeing his comment even.
Well, he's right there. He's the maximum would be 30 grams on high humidity in most,
Yeah,
at
that's about what I
most
do.
temperatures. See, now that's the thing. Okay. He was saying, like, he said, I don't have a video camera to so. Okay, Rick. But now
He's got a mic.
what
He can still come in.
if he, yeah, I see. I guess you could, if you got a cell phone, you can use your cell phone to come in. That's, as long
Well,
as you
it's
just,
a smartphone, he can. You get,
yeah, a smartphone. I mean, um,
he's
now,
like me.
see,
He
that
may
was
not be
one
smart
thing
enough.
I'm interested, where he also considers high humidity in his treatment factor,
Yeah.
which I think, as I've told some manufacturers that, they say no, that's not. And all that, but that's one thing I always consider with Formic Pro or any of the formic acids is humidity and heat together, and which I think the humidity intensifies the product, along with AprilGuard. That was another thing that would intensify. But I was watching a video. I think a guy was in the Carolinas, and he put 25 grams on a single deep solid bottom board, and I'm not. And half of his hive was outside the box. He also stated last year he put a full dose on, and 3 of his hives either died or absconded. And I'm like, yeah,
Well, I've got a little of both. I've got screens and solid bottoms. If on my screens, when I treat with AprilGuard, I'll open them at least halfway, and on my solids, I'll put I use popsicle sticks, or at least
mhm.
my my covers. I'll put popsicle sticks and then open them up a little bit more.
There's the big kitten.
Because I keep my entrances pretty small normally.
Yeah.
Hey, I got 17, Laura. I'll donate to your collection if you'd like some. I'll bring them out to you. Scared her out. She left.
They scared her out. We like watching cats. Brad from he has his cat on a lot of times.
Mine's barn cats. They don't hold very good. I got a dog that wants to be on my lap about half the time. My cats, I try to.
Yeah.
I don't abuse them, but I try to keep them from.
What'd you do?
on my
Come back
lap.
in twice, Laura? There we go.
I didn't mean to scare you out when I offered to bring you
I don't know how to
17
do
cats.
this.
So anyway, all right. Well, let's get on something different, I guess. We've
All
talked
right,
about all the
pussycat.
different varroa mites and different things of that nature and all. So oh, she's gone again. And so anyway, yeah, for me, I got to check that one hive. I got a queen in there. She hadn't been laying anything. I think she's a dud. Let's see what we got here.
I've got one I can't find. It's a 2 deeps and a medium.
Yeah. Now Rick was saying here he uses singles and doubles, but when he uses doubles, he puts it in the middle. Yeah, I would do that, and probably Rick. Do you put a shim in there because to give him a little more space? Probably the brood is still down on the bottom, and then more so honey upstairs. Maybe I've seen that.
I just make my sheds out of standard 2x4s, 2x6s. I just rip them 3/4, like your sides on your boxes, and then make my own shims. That's what I use with Formic and Apic guard both.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Sandy from up Icy Mountain Honey. Yeah, Laura. Well, maybe she's coming back in. The cat turned the computer off, I think.
Well,
But
she must have been on an iPad or something because she was obviously carrying it with her when she went downstairs. So
yeah, she probably had a pad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have one of them. But anyway, that's that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to check I say we'll have decent weather tomorrow. I'm going to check out one box, see what that darn Queensland. I already got one ordered from a guy that's a couple hours from me and coming in next week. So if she's not laying, I'm going to pull her and get rid of her, or actually I'm going to use her for some practice picking the queen up, or practice using this one little queen marking machine that I got. Not a machine, but it's a ring with I call it this crown of thorns. And
I like those little things. I use them a lot for mark queens with.
Yeah, the one is a ring that you push down and push her on that. Yeah, I have gotten to the point. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Now mine's actually got thread. Mine's got a real wooden ring and
mine
and it's got threads in it and stuff.
Yeah.
But
you know what? Those pins, they'll come loose on you. I lost a queen or two. They'd come out of it, and I got to looking at it. I had about 3 or 4 pins missing. Those little metal pins. And that one there is one of them.
I don't know. Here lately, I don't really mark the queens. As long as I see eggs and brood, I'm like, okay, we got a queen. Let's keep on going.
Well, I like to find them, but I've got one I've been through 4 times, and it's a double deep 10 frame. That rip she's smarter than I am. I've got eggs, larvae, and cat brood in that hive, but I can't find that queen. I've been through it 4 times. And my eyesight's not the best in the world anymore, but she's outsmarted me. I think she's a runner. I think she just rolls over when I pick them up. I think she just rolls over to another one. I put one back in a 10 frame, and I put it to the third be the third one in. And when I took out I put her back in and put her in the third frame in. When I got to the 10th frame, there she was again. So they can move pretty quickly.
Yeah, Rick, my honey is usually locust trees and poplar trees. It's kind of a light yellow. Now this year it's a little darker, I believe, because the locust, we had some rain and it kind of washed some of the nectar out. And I think that the there's a little bit more poplar in there right now. And then we had an extended amount of nectar flow this year. Usually by the 4th of July, everything's dried up. This year it wasn't. And I don't know what it is, whether it was white Dutch clover. Bee inspector stated that. And I said, well, there could be the spotted lanternfly, but I did have some staghorn sumac across the road over there, quite a few bushes of it, a lot of blooms and stuff. So it might have been that also for me. So, I got where I, like I was telling, I guess maybe last week or whatever, I had a bunch of hives die on me, and then I had a bunch of old queens, and I learned a valuable lesson that, hey, requeen every 2 years. And I put new queens in, and man, they did a bang up job for me. They were late into the honey season for me, and put them new queens, and they took off like a bunch of rockets and laid everything up. And I made more honey this year than I did last year, by let's say 25 pounds, but still I thought I was going to be maybe 500 pounds at the best, and I was sweating it, but nope, they came through for me. So Another thing to be careful about is have yourself on a queen replacement program and everything and all that stuff. Yeah, Sandy says her honey was amazingly good. She didn't know what they were getting either. I don't know. I don't know what it was around here this year as far as being very late, but my hives have got the supers that I have on there that I normally fill with sugar water. They're full with nectar right now, and I don't think I'm going to have to feed as much, in September. Yeah, the comb helps out great, and I had read the previous comment. Your location. West Cliff, I am in Maryland, close to Baltimore and all.
Oh, she was asking that Icy Mountain honey. I don't know if you seen her, was asking about what bees could get into that leave a slight eucalyptus flavor in the honey, and I would have no idea unless they're eating Vicks salve or something.
I don't know.
I really
I don't know.
Somebody I think it's Bob Benny or somebody had a video on that not too long ago.
Wasn't that some kind of a wild cherry that he was saying it had kind of a
Yeah.
cough syrup
some kind of
to it?
Yep, that was it.
There was
Vulture in my areas, you don't want it. It's nasty stuff. It's bitter.
it had sort of a cough syrup taste to it.
Yeah,
He said.
Yeah.
All right. Mike says it's Vicks, and but he would take that and he would blend it at his packing shop, with other honeys and stuff like that.
Yeah, he said normally you don't get enough of it in one particular area to worry about it too much. But somebody had sent him some where they had got a big crop of it.
Okay, Randy Klingen was talking about wild black cherry. Yeah,
I've got quite a bit of it around me, and it makes nasty. I'll leave it for the bees. If I think there's a bit of it, I'll taste of it, out in the frame, and if it's in there, I just leave it for the bees. You can taste that. It tastes like cough syrup.
Icy Mountain. Icy Mountain. That's Sandy out in Western Maryland. I don't know. I really don't.
Mountain mint honey is what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Now, was that the mountain mint plant?
Yeah, that's what he was calling it on the video, mountain mint.
Okay.
But I think there is a mountain mint tree, is there not, Joey? I think that's what he was meant, though. I don't think that was the
Honeybee
cherry.
compound. You say lavender. Lavender. Isn't that a lavender plant? Is that the purple?
Well, that's a little plant. Yeah, I've got some lavender plants in my pollinator yard. It's a small plant. A lot of people they say it makes real nice honey, but I don't have any idea. I don't have enough of it to know what it would taste like.
Yeah, Rick says a new queen makes a difference in honey production. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Rick. I learned that this year. And I mean, I know this is your second time in. To bring you up to speed, I had some old queens. Come this spring, I had a bunch of them die on me, and I requeened everything. And it did a complete turnaround on my hives. And then talking with some other commercial guys like yourself, where they're requeening every 2 years, understanding why they're requeening, where, I'm not on a roller coaster ride of keeping pretty much my hives at an even keel where they're highly productive in egg laying, which in turn gives you that, that honey crop and everything. And you don't have quite the dead outs and stuff like that, especially when you keep fresh queens in there. And that was a big learning curve that I learned the hard way this year, but I'm on top of it now. So, but
yeah, I think I'm going to replace mine every year. I'm gonna move all the last year's queens into the nuke box
Is that right?
eventually. Yeah. Start my resource hive off with them, and then
I'll
pull them
replace
to
as
make
needed.
more.
Well, now, Joey, now you're down there in Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Down there, y'all don't have any winter. And talking
Nope.
with some folks up north and whatever, you know, your queens are probably laying 11 months out of the year. I would say you know, they say that you guys down there need to requeen every year in order to keep up.
Yeah. When
Keep
I first
everything.
got into beekeeping, that was the way I was taught. The mentor that me and Jeff Harchoff, Mike Berry, and several of us, that's
Yeah.
kind of the method he used, the way he did splits. He was always replacing that mother hive with a new queen. And I kind of got away from that after a few years. Everybody said, man, them 2-year-old queens and 3-year-old queens, they do good too. But I tell you what, I've been in it long enough now. They might not.
That's right. I was talking to Troy. Let's see, Troy Hall. I guess it was I had on my show here the one time up in New Hampshire. And
Yeah.
he said up there, now they get a lot of snow, more than I do. And
Yeah.
it really shuts their queens down. And he can, you know, his 1 and 2 year queen work great for him up there as far as honey production and everything. And they'll get through the winters because the winters up there are at least 6 months long. And they get a lot of snow, you know, 4 or 5 feet of snow. And he said he'll have a queen there that's a 2nd year queen, and you know he's ready to pinch her or whatever and put a new one in for you know to keep her up fresh. But he said there'll be a few of them that you're like, no, I don't know. I would really want to, you know, they're really doing a great job here, so they'll let them go through the winter on that 3rd year. And he said sometimes they will die, and then sometimes, yeah, they get through the winter. But he says you can definitely tell production wise that they are a 3rd year queen. They do pretty good for you, but not as good as 1 and 2 year queens. And so even, you know, even up there where it's heavy winters, they try to get rid of them every 2 years and stuff like that. You know, that kind of a thing. Let's see. And I don't know, Rick, if you want to come in and, you know, give us a, what do you do? I know that you're running 1,600 hives, which is kind of, I don't know how you actually, maybe you requeen half of your operation at a time per year or something like that. You know, as far, are you running 2 year up to 2 year old queens, or are you just keeping it at 1 year queens? Gotta see. Hopefully he'll make a comment in the comments. But you know, down in that was, we were talking to Brad from Cajun Homestead, and he was doing the same thing that you did, Joey, where he was running them 2 and 3 year old queens, and he was having problems and all that stuff. And he's learned, he did the same thing. He's been making queens. Of course, you guys can do that because it's still hot down there. And now he's going back to requeening every year and doesn't have that problem and all that stuff. And then Brian here, what's my plan for new queens next year? Well, number one, I'm going to jump in and go back to start, you know, raising my own queens. I, you know, downsized my nuke operation where I can, instead of me trying to have to sell nukes and all that, and everything's, you know, a lot of pressure on me. In the springtime, I'm going to focus in on setting up a cell builder. And Rick, you know, if you're still listening in, I watched that video that you put out for Man Lake about setting up a 2 queen or a queen right hives starter finisher. And I definitely gonna do that. I try to. Let's see. Here's my question. Tries to replace every year the last of August or the 1st of September. It seems to make a difference. I would definitely And I presume, Rick, you were saying, I think last week, that you were getting ready to go to Florida. So are you replacing them in Florida? I guess where Kentucky's a little bit, when it comes to weather, is late in the season and all, possibly. I'm not sure. But with Brian's question, my plan is this year, there it was. What am I going to do for new queens next year? Number one, I'm going to be raising my own queens. Number two, there are some genetics from a queen rearer up in Pennsylvania. They're very calm and good honey producers. And they don't follow you around and whatever. So I want to get some of his genetics. I'll see how many queens I can get from him next year. And since my queens was advised by some folks up in Canada there, James, who's, sideliner / commercial, and all the rest of them up there, my game plan is they say 2 honey seasons. So this queen that I just put in this year has went through a honey season, produced, great amounts of honey for me. And I will run her through next year's honey season, and then I will replace them, because I consider that 2 honey seasons for them. And even though it's not been 2 winters, and then once I replace them next year, and I'm hoping to try to get them replaced by somewhere around July, in that time frame, right after the honey crop is over with, and replace them all. And that way I can go through 2 actual winters. I'll be on a schedule then. I'll get it scheduled out. So that's my game plan. Whether all works out, who knows? Let's see. Yeah, so your wife's helping you out in the Ed, see Nancy's comment. That's who I'm going to get them from. Yeah, Rick, you mentioned your wife in that video where she was an excellent queen. She could see the queens and everything else, and that, I think, is what I remember of it, what you were stating and everything. But that's now something for Rick. Do you raise your own queen? I'm pretty sure you probably raise your own queens as far as replacing. As far as, I was wondering if that's what you do. I'm sure you do, because you showed that. That was the presentation. Rick was at the 2021 Hive Life Conference, and he did a presentation of his Queen Right cell starter and finisher hive configuration. The problem I had was I was sitting in the back of the room, because it was one great big room, and trying to get up close to really get a good visual on all that was kind of difficult. And they got the Tiny Creek Bee Company. I think it's your first time in. Welcome. Let's see. If I made splits on the 14th of July 14th and got into the queenless hive a week later, and then they were a little defensive, then Monday got into them again, but no eggs, but they were calm. Does that mean queen right? that's some pretty good characteristics there. When they're queenless, they are agitated. They are noisy. They have a real high pitched hum to them. More so, I mean, I walked by a hive without even opening it up, and you could hear them. That's how loud they were. But they will also be chaotic. The bees will be running everywhere on the inner cover or the frames. They're crazy acting because they know they're queenless. But now if they're queen right, they're quieter. The bees are calmer on the frames and inner cover if you're running inner covers. And you should, everything should be good. And let me see on. All right, the way he made splits on the 14th of July. A week
Really
later.
had time to.
There's
They had
really
had
not
time
enough
to-
information in that question.
No, I don't know whether he's put a queen into it or a cell into him,
Yeah.
or was it a walk-away split? If it's a walk-away split, you got a month
Yeah.
before you're ever going to see anything,
Mhm.
if not 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff.
He's
Taking yeah. Oh, here we go. No, they made cells. Okay. So it was a
It's gonna be at
walk-away
least 3
split.
weeks before you see anything.
Walk-away split, it's going to take
Don't hardly
16,
have time to have a queen
it's
yet.
going to take over 2 weeks. By the time you made the walk-away split, it'll take it'll take a little bit more than it'll take 16 days for the queen to hatch out. So you've got over 2 weeks right there. And then
Best
she's going to
case
be in the
scenario is 3
hive.
weeks.
Huh?
Best
that?
case scenario is 3 weeks.
Yeah, at least.
Best case
And then
scenario.
she's in the hive for about a week, maybe, where her exoskeleton is hardening up, her wings are hardening up or drying up so she can fly. And her ovaries and stuff like that are maturing at that same time. Then she flies out and gets mated, hopefully with 15 or 20 drones. Hopefully you got drones in your area at that time, wherever you're located. And then she'll come back, and then within that week, she'll start to lay. So it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks for, by 6 weeks, you ought to be cranking it, There we go. Thank you for the answer. It helps me. And Tiny, where are you located? Here we go. We are located in upstate South Carolina. Okay. You must be close to Bob's house. And all. But yeah, just the main thing is like DC says, Tiny, go in there, and if you can see eggs, that's all you need to see. You got queen and all that. So, and just put it back together and leave her alone. And that's another thing. Don't be going in there
Right.
and messing with her. If you wait for those certain amount of time, don't go in there looking around trying to find a virgin and all that stuff. That just screws up the whole hive. They will kill her sometimes because of that.
When you do a walk away, 7 days later, you can look and see which one ended up queenless, and make sure that they have cells, capped cells, or anything close to capped. Then I'd close it up and stay away from it for another 2 weeks at least.
Here's my answer. So he raises some of his own, then he gets someone from David Miska. Has good queens. Yes, I am going to Florida when I do get ready to do queens. Okay, that's why he'd do queens that late in the season and everything. Yeah. Now, Rick, I get like the queens that I got from Chuck Kudik, down there in Manning, South Carolina, when his right hand man, it's not Jose, it's shoot, I can't think what his name is. He's the head of their operation there. Um, that's where I got my queens from this year. But I will try to I'm gonna, get into making my own, try to keep from having to buy so much and spend so much money. And all. Thanks for this hit the like button thing, Sandy, and all that. So anybody else would like to come in, go ahead and click on the link there if you would, and all that. So Joseph, let's see, you got most all your honeys pulled and
Yep. All mine's
done,
right
aren't you?
over there.
What do you got? A honey tank or a bottling tank, and then I see it.
Well,
The buckets over there.
tank and those buckets. I got about 1,400 pounds.
Right. And all that. What's that? A Hilco bottling tank?
Yep.
What is?
Hilco bottling tank, Hilco uncapping tank, Man Lake uncapper, and a Hilco extractor.
You got one of those Hilco one drop bottling tanks like I got?
One drip.
Yeah.
One drip, one drop, one drip.
I tell everybody it's called a drip less, not no drip. Drip less.
Drip.
I got that Max Ant bottling tank of mine, and it's got that no drip valve, which I call it a one drip valve.
Yeah.
It's always one drip.
I bet always get at least one.
Yeah, I always just take the bottle when I stop filling and just drag that bottle on the top of it. It gives me a little more time to grab my lid.
But I got to fill mine up. Mine's getting pretty low. I got a 25-gallon bottling tank. I got to put about 3 buckets or so in there, maybe 4. Stone River, JB. This year I requeen right in the beginning of the honey flow because I had to. Next year I want to requeen after the honey flow is what I would like to do. That's my plan. It might change by that time. I'll kind of have to see how, and all that. I know that if there's a flow on, they seem to be better acceptance and stuff, but I don't know. I'm gonna requeen after the flow, but I also will make them hives queenless for at least 5 days, and then I'll go in and go through every darn frame, shake the bees off, make sure there's no queen cells. If there is, I'll destroy everything, and then make sure I see everything before I do that. Well, they're going to be mated queens. Stone River or JB. I mean, that's, when I put them in there, they'll definitely be mated. And Nancy says summer solstice queen for me up here. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to raise my own queens throughout the queen raising season. And I got enough. I can raise at least 30, I got 30 mating boxes, and I'll sell some queens and I'll kind of grade what I'm making queen wise. And hopefully, if I can, you got to time it right, do the grafting at this point in time, have her, go out and get mated. I don't really have that many dragonflies that I'm not close to a lot of water. I don't know whether that makes any difference or not. Didn't seem to be. And then what I'll try to do is have him mated and laying up for 2 or 3 weeks in the mating boxes. And then hope, I'll time it out to where it'll be the end of June, 1st of July type area. And that's when I'll swap things around. And I probably won't pinch the other queen right away. I'll pull her out, put her in another box. And that's what I did this spring. The ones that were still alive, I don't know why, they all kind of died anyway. So it didn't really matter, but, and all that. Yeah. Accepting a queen.
You must have spell corrector or something. That don't really make sense to
I
me.
think you meant
Yeah,
deer.
that's what it is. It must be. Yeah. Accepting a queen in a honey flow is a lot easier than a dearth.
Yeah,
That's the
very
gist
much
of it.
so.
I agree with you there. I've heard that for sure. Hope says he's had a puppy, never had dragonflies. Now he's got bees. He got dragonflies everywhere.
Well, I've
They
probably
draw
got
them there.
one dragonfly for every 100 bees at my place right now. They're everywhere. I mowed today, and they just was every place. I mowed three of my yards today. Mowed and weed eated. About more than the old man can handle. I'm gonna have to get Joy to come up and help me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with what Rick's saying there, and I've often heard about that. If it's a flow on it, it's easier. But I don't know. I haven't quite figured all that out. Get some different ideas and stuff like that. So bluebirds are just as bad as the dragonflies. Yeah, I got them darn barn swallows around here. That's my biggest problem. I think they're just as bad as all the rest of the other things, especially in the
Polos, martins. And these little, I've got a little old, I call them, I actually call them bee martins. A little smaller, not as big as a normal martin, and they really like the honeybees. Them little suckers are after them all the time. I've got a lot of bluebirds, but I don't notice them after the bees.
Yeah, but you're talking about requeening, and let's say you're doing it through the honey flow. I could do that too. Something that was talked about on another chat where, those new things that Better Bee puts out, those isolation cages that you can put a whole frame in there and it's queen excluders on both sides.
Yeah.
Something that was mentioned was like when I dequeen a hive, they're going to make queen cells because they got no queen pheromone in there. So if you take a frame with the original queen on it in that hive, put her in that cage and lock her up because she only lays on that one frame. So in 5 to 7 days, everything else in that hive should be too old for them to make any kind of queen cells. And they're not going to make any queen cells because they got a queen, but she's caged up. And so I could, You
know what's wrong with that theory, Charlie? Not to be
What's that?
smart. They're about $35 a piece.
I got one.
Yeah, I do too.
No, I'm not going to buy a bunch of them like that. Problem
You
of it
only
is,
have to buy it one
I
time,
find it
though.
taking a long time to. I find it would take a long time to do
If
that.
you're gonna do many queens, you're gonna do more than one. Have to have more than one. That's my point.
Yeah.
But yeah, but if you don't do something like that, you got to go back in a few days and knock everything down, unless you're just gonna let them make their own.
Yeah.
Well, that's true too. That's true too. I mean, we were also discussing whether or not, well, that would be if it was making it in the honey season, they would be less likely of, um, well, I don't know. I have to see. Maybe I'll have to queen while we're in the honey flow or right in the beginning of the honey flow. Maybe start doing it that way. If I could get them through next year, through the honey crop, and get them through the next winter, and then requeen them that next spring. But I really want to. I mean, 2 years ago, I put Apis biologic in their food source, and those bees were the biggest, and the amount of bees in there was just phenomenal. And
Those barn swallows, somebody had mentioned them. We used to have them. They'd build on our buildings at work, all those brick buildings we had out there.
Yep.
And we had some right at our door at our maintenance building. And we got to watching them birds when they'd feed the little ones. They'd fly out and go up, and I'd get that sun out my eyes, and I'd watch them, and they'd go up to almost out of sight and come back. And I kept wondering what in the world they're going way up there and getting and coming back. And one of them, finally, I was a state worker, so I could spend a little time sitting there watching them. And finally, one of them dropped a regular old housefly. They were going up there. I guess those houseflies swarm up there or something. But they'd go all the way up out of sight, a few 100 feet, and get that food and come back down.
yeah.
Regular
Now,
old
Sandy
housefly.
made mention here, like the last week or so of our honey flow, and really that would be ideal. And that would be, let's say, the middle of June. I could requeen because that's when the flow's starting to slow down, and all.
That's when I normally try to do it if it's at all possible. But if I got a bad one in the 4th of August, I'll replace it then too. But
Well, the main thing is not so much being bad is that I've learned this year that you want fresh queens all the time, just like Rick said, that a new queen will produce a tremendous amount of honey, and I mean that they proved that to me this year. I never would have thought about that part of it. What
I
he just
never keep one over 2 years.
Yeah, well, see, I always, it was just something that nobody really talked about. And today, they don't really talk about that at the intermediate or advanced level type beekeeping talks. That, they'll kind of brush over it. Let's say, I'll replace them every 2 years. Well, why don't you tell us the reasoning behind that? Whoever let's say the speaker is. And then for me, that's a big deal. If you sit there and say, well, this is the reasoning behind it, because this is this will be the outcome why, when you do these different things. If you want high honey production, you don't want, let's say you want low percentage of your hives failing through the winter because you got fresh queens in there, they won't fail. And they often talk about fresh queens don't have a swarm tendency and stuff like that, and which I think, I don't know, I don't have that enough experience to see whether or not the swarm potential is really there or really goes away. And I always find if she don't have a place to lay, she's want to go to swarm. What's Nancy talking about?
I give them about 60 days. If I install a new queen, I'll check her. Check her pattern in about 60 days. She better be doing it, or I'll be a redoing her, regardless of age. That's just my own. That's the way I do it.
Premier boxes. I don't know much about Premier. A box is a box to me, or as a wooden box goes.
Well, they're talking about those ones that's got the serrated edges on them. That's what they're talking about.
Uh,
I don't know if it makes any difference, honestly, in my personal opinion, but that's just
well,
my
they talked about that at Nobby this year. And the bottom line of it is, and she actually said so. I said, we talked about this 8 years ago or more. And that was with what's her name? The science lady. I don't know. Anyway, she had experimented with scratching up the sides of the hives and whatever 8 to 10 years ago. And yes, it puts more propolis on there. And yes, they, and all that stuff. Let me see what we got here with Rick. Yeah, well, thanks, Rick, for coming in. Appreciate the information and everything that you provided tonight. Yeah, Roy, that's Marva Spivak. Yeah, and everything. And we're here every Friday night, unless I have something else I have to do. But usually I put out the notification on that. So have a great evening, Rick. But yeah, Marla Spivak, Brian, yeah, that's correct. She did an experiment about 8 to 10 years ago on that stuff. And what she was approving is the fact that there is a propolis envelope inside the hive, which in turn, basically the bees make the interior of their house sterile from the outside environment through propolis. And that's, they were trying to figure out, hey, Ryan, and trying to figure out about whether that reduces the viral loads and things of that nature in. I don't think they really proved that part of it, but they know that the propolis will kill the viruses and stuff. And did I get any heavy winds? No, not really. I got a little bit in the morning. Had the barn doors open. It was they were kind of gusty winds, like 20 miles an hour, maybe 30 at the most. It was enough for me to go ahead and ratchet strap down the corners of the sliding doors so they wouldn't blow off the barn. And other than that was about it. And it rained here throughout the day, on and off. Not heavy downpours where all you could see was white rain. It was just a good steady rain, maybe for a half an hour or so. And then it might be overcast for 2 or 3 hours, and then it would come back and do again. Something would be coming through. Just got a lot of rain down there. He's south of me down there. I don't see. I'll have to look at the map here. Yeah, I see. You're down around Waldorf, La Plata. Yeah, there is a cloud or a cell, I guess you would call it, kind of north of Waldorf and everything. But everything else is clear. And I think it's pretty much going to be clear and sunny tomorrow.
Bob
Yeah,
must be
Brian.
busy.
Brian, this is what Marla, was talking about, about 8 years ago, the social immunity of the hive and, the envelope and all that stuff.
Now there's a lot of difference in bees too. Some of them seem to make a lot more propolis. My bees, the bees that I've got in my apiaries, making enough propolis to suit me by far without enhancing their propolis making abilities. And I'm not knocking. I use a lot of Premier stuff, and I'm not knocking their stuff, but
Good night, Sandy.
uh,
Yeah.
Good night.
And then Hope Bear, he's south of Charlotte. He got 8+ inches. Well, he was right in the main path of that storm, I think. And all. What's Mike saying? Yeah, I don't know whether it was 90% or not. I do know Marlo's crew was doing the research on that. And then actually, I sat in her. I had never met her in person before or been around her in person. And I went to her class at Nobby this year, and that was what the class was about. And all. And she had mentioned it. It was about 8 to 10 years ago. She did all this research. And Roy, I'll have to agree with you there. As far as I'm concerned, I think over time, I think the bees do shellac the interior of the hives.
Yeah, they probably do. It's just not as thick as it would be.
Yeah.
But,
if you ever got any bee trees, you'd find that out. There's lots of they pretty well smooth them out the inside of them.
Yeah.
Bee trees.
But yeah, so that's it could be a small amount of shellac, or it could be, like you say, pretty darn heavy and all that stuff. But whatever. So are you selling your honey, Joseph, or like at a fair, that kind of stuff?
I got a couple of stores I sell in, and a lot of people just come here to get it.
Now that I was watching your video, let's see, the Man Lake uncapping machine, isn't that slicer, a roller slicer?
Yeah, it's got the rollers in it.
Yeah, they got thin where they're cutting the cappings. They're not really cutting them off.
Right.
And that they're slicing the cappings.
Yeah. It's got the same rollers in it, the blades that I almost just said it. I'll think of it later. Simple Harmony Farms or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Same thing.
It's doing the same thing, but you're not having to pull it in and out by hand. You just crank it back and forth. Matter of fact, the video that's coming out in the morning.
Do you have to go back and forth a couple times? Do you have to go back and forth on that thing a couple times?
Yeah, several times. I probably go more than I need to. But and mine, for some reason, when you go back and forth, it still cuts better on the top than it does the bottom. So I flip it over and do it a couple more times. But my video in the morning, I'll be using it. I didn't like it when I first started using that thing. It's actually my wife's. When we went up to Minnesota, we stopped at Man Lake, and when she saw that thing, she had to have it. And I kept saying no. And the boy said, you might as well, you done lost this battle. You might as well get that uncapper. And I knew we couldn't fit it in the car. I knew there was no way. And I told her, I said, if we can get that tank and that thing in the car, we'll go ahead and get it. And I'll be dogged if it didn't fit in there. But
well, I mean, that's the only thing I've noticed with that. I'm not real sold on that thing, as far as.
Yeah, me neither. And I've had it now for a few years, and I've finally given it more of a chance this year, and it does pretty good. But the thing is, it's not actually taking the cappings off. You're going to get more in your extractor, and when you put the frames out to get cleaned out by the bees, that's where you're going to get most of your cappings, right there when it all goes down the stack. And I put a migratory cover under it and catch it all.
Mhm.
But
I kind of like that wedge knife that Bob had, where you get them from
yeah,
Better Be, where it's kind of it's like a slicer. But all that stuff depends on one thing. You got to have 9 frame boxes, and you got to have that thick comb
yeah,
for all that automatic stuff to work. Whether you got an automatic
yeah.
uncapper like Tom and Melissa has, or any of that stuff. And I've been trying to do that with my hives a lot of times, but a lot of times I don't find them actually drawing it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this one is, if the cappings are too far below the end bars,
Yeah.
kind of shallow, it may not grab it all. You might have to scrape some of it. But if it's pretty close, it'll get it all eventually. You just have to keep rolling it back and forth. Every time you go over it, it sinks a little bit deeper in those cappings. You would think when you put your hand in there, it's tight on your hand. I don't know how it don't go through all that wax and honey the first pass. You got to back it up 3 or 4 times to get it to actually
Well,
close
see,
up
to
on
me,
it.
I don't think you're gaining anything with that thing if you got to do it that much.
Yeah. It's still faster than scraping
Well, I don't
but
scrape. I mean, I always have I got a hot plane I use.
yeah,
A Maxan hot plane, which I run it across. They're saying you're
yeah,
supposed to go up the length of the frame with it because it's that wide, because it'll cut a medium. But I find going across the frame 4 or 5 times, cutting it as I go up, and it works fine. And it cuts
yeah,
it about the thickness of a paper towel, and works out fine. And as far as my uncapping tank, I did get a man lake one time, but it was damaged. I sent it back, and I kept looking at the price tag of $700 and some dollars, I think it was, and I wound up with a hive butler for $250, and it's portable for me. I don't have a honey house, and it's portable, and I can wash it and whatever, and it works out fine for me. And
I tell you, I
Uncappers,
like that little prickly roller. The little
yeah.
roller with the
yeah,
it does good too. If I like to use it if it's not fat comb, I just soon use it. And if it's real fat comb, I want to use a knife. So
My uncappers, automatic uncapper is portable. Her name's Savannah.
yeah,
what she used to uncap, JB.
She uses a knife and a little roller like Joey's talk about.
Yeah.
She's good at it. She can do one while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I got that where I cut that.
that's my 2 main uncapper
Yep,
tools.
that's what we
You got
got.
a cold knife and that puncture thing.
That's exactly what we got. And a good young lady that can really operate it.
I got a little scraper somewhere. I use it a lot too. I always call that my Hilco mirror.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
pretty shiny.
I use that to make sure my hair's parted right.
Yeah.
I think I showed y'all my new honey warmer one time. It actually doing a good job. I need to bottle some more honey. But
Yeah.
it holds it right at 90 degrees.
Yeah, Tiny Bee Creek. I was down at Bill's place there, who owns Shenandoah Bee Supply, and they, the boxes and stuff look good. Now, he has a lot of those plastic hives also. I can't remember what their names of them are, and but his boxes, yes, I know what it was different about his boxes. He has they're not finger jointed. They are what's the other type of joint? It's like this.
Rabbited,
I think it's a dovetail.
dovetail.
They're dovetail joints. I believe the Amish or whatever makes them for him and all.
And that's what the premiers are, I think, is the dovetails. I'd use the straight finger joints, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the boxes, I mean, that I can remember. I was there this year, but for the first time, but I really didn't, I wasn't paying a lot of
I don't know
attention.
anything about his product.
Uh,
Those
they're
Those
good.
dovetails, when you
I
put
can
them
tell you
together,
that
they gonna hold.
I can tell you that his woodenware comes from Pennsylvania, from the Mennonites or Amish, and all that I believe. At least the frames I know for sure. So yeah, I think they're good boxes.
I get all my woodware from Dogwood Ridge Bees, Dwayne Davis. He's in Indiana. Mom
Yeah.
and pop operation. He makes all of his own woodenware, him and his son, boxes. And they're
Is that golden? Is that Golden Bee?
No, it's Dogwood Ridge Bees.
Dogwood Ridge.
If you go into Nobby or Hive Alive, he's usually right the first one you hit when you go in the door. He usually gets that number one spot right just inside the door.
Well, I know that Shenandoah Bee Supply, they're also at Nobby.
Yeah.
He
just
got
Charlie, wouldn't you?
to me.
Huh?
The reason I use him, he got good stuff.
Right.
And they have a website, and I'd highly recommend their products.
Yeah, I
Who
go ahead, Joey.
who was that talking about? They had a hot knife that didn't have a thermostat on it, and somebody now sells one that you can put on them.
That's me, I guess. I had
You?
I've got a hot
What'd
plane,
you
which
get?
is a Max Ant, and it doesn't have a thermostat on because it's a hot plane.
I've got a hot knife that doesn't have a thermostat.
I got a router. Doug Longman told me about it off of Amazon. It's about $20. It's a rheostat, is what it is. You plug your hot knife into that, and then you plug your extension cord into that cord out of that rheostat, and you got a toggle switch. You got the center position is off. To the right, you toggle to the right, it's full power without the rheostat being, I guess, energized. Or you turn it to the left, which then you have a knob, which is the rheostat. I can get that information for you here pretty quick.
Okay. I'll send you a text. You got my number?
I don't know. I don't think I do, Joey.
Yeah. If you still got the old bottle I gave you, the honey, it's on it. But if you don't, I'll text you. I got your number on a honey bottle here.
Okay, text me the number. But Amazon.
Oh, you're gonna look it up right now, huh?
I think so. But the stupid thing won't work.
I bought that thing several years ago.
Yeah.
And,
I used it this year, this
it's way too hot.
rheostat, and it worked fine. What I found was that if I was cutting right along regularly, I guess you would say, continuously, then I really didn't need the come on. Here we go.
Hello, Southern Russell.
Hey, Russell.
Where's Richard Biner? Where's he located? Where are you located at, Richard?
Richard who?
Richard Biner Jr. Where's he located at? Maybe he'll pop in there and tell us. If you don't know, I thought maybe one of you guys knew him.
Flower Street just sent a link.
Amherst, Ohio. Okay. Thank you, Richard. I'm just curious.
Let's see. Buy in.
Does it look like that one that the link he just put in there?
Let's see if I can find it.
It's a speed control, really.
Here it is.
They tell me that Pierce outfit up there in California's got the best one. I don't know a thing about them, but that's what I'm told by people who supposedly know.
Who?
But in the Pierce.
Pierce.
Oh, yeah, I hear a lot of people bragging about theirs.
Yeah.
Joey, go ahead into private chat, and I got the link in there to Amazon. I think that link will work. Our Flower Street did it too.
Yeah, they're both similar. I'm gonna save that.
Hey, Randy.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that one's a little bit different than mine. Mine, I can yeah, mine's $23. That, like I say, mine, you got, if you look at the switch up top, it has off, full, and variable. So you can run it full blast on the electric, or you can flip it back over to where if you're not cutting wax, continuously, then you can cut the electric back and all that. So
Yeah, the first time we tried ours, after we let it heat up, the first pass did okay, but the more we worked, the hotter it got, and it started like scorching my honey. I said, I'm unplugging this thing. I'm not going to ruin what little honey I got. So
right.
We broke out the bread knife and started using it until that's what we used until we got this bread knife.
Yeah, well, then you would need the variable speed, and I would put it at medium, and I kind of brought it up to where it was just to start a high. And that way I get, being by myself, and I'm uncapping as I'm putting it into the extractor. And I sometimes get busy doing a few little other things. A few minutes roll by and that damn knife is starting to heat up, caramelize that honey on that copper knife. And if it does that, it won't cut. It acts like it's dull and everything. So, and all that stuff and all. But, so that's what I've learned on mine and that kind of thing. So anyway,
Bob Walker must be pretty busy or something, because he's been in here, but he hadn't come on. I didn't get a response out of him.
Yeah. I don't know. If we talk about mite treatments, then he doesn't like to come in. He wants to talk about Appy tablets, which I'm going to use them this fall too. As soon as I take my formic off, I'm going to throw them in the hive and then start feeding and then let them run through the wintertime. See how they do. That's, a continuous thymol treatment. See how that works for me. So I'll have to experiment with that. Maybe take a I don't know. Do like a hive like he did. Take one of the hives and just use that all the time and then check it with mite treatments or mite check to see what it does and all. But I got all these other products I have to use because I bought them.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Have both of you used Guard?
I haven't.
Neither one of you? Okay.
No, because
I'm on my second tub. I opened my second tub today, and the dating on it says good till 26. When I opened it, it was like really separated, and the more I stirred it, it got little old crystal like deals in it. I'd never had that happen before. I just wondered if either one of you.
I got a tub of it in here, JW, and it's outdated. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. And because
it separates if it sits along. Mine's dated to 26. The tub that I opened today, but it had separated. I don't know why. And when I stirred it all up, it kind of crystallized. I didn't know if either one of y'all, if anyone's got any comments on the chat, you might fill me in if anybody's had the same experience with it. My other tubs, I've never had to do that, but this got
What's the suggestions on storing it till it's used in just a dry, cool place or what?
Yeah, it says keep it. I don't know. There's temperatures on the instructions to keep it. I've got it. Well, this is actually the scene there behind me, or the virtual screen there behind me is my bee house, and it gets pretty hot. It's a combination greenhouse. When that sun's full bore, it'll get up to 110, 115 in there at times.
I think you're going to find that that's a little bit too hot for that.
Yeah. Well, I don't keep it in there all the time, but sometimes I forget and leave it in there.
Right.
So that may be part of the reason why it's separating. I don't know.
I don't know. What you got there, Joey? Honey?
Some sourwood, crystallized sourwood honey.
Well, and what does it taste like? Just sweet or something? I don't know. Everybody talks about it.
It reminds me of a sucker. Now, what I've got, let's see. I've got two different sourwoods. This one's just up from the Smoky Mountains somewhere. I'm not too familiar with it. And I got Bob Benny's. And I'm going to tell you, this one here, I like it better than I do this one.
Well, Bob says his stuff is the most purest.
Well, I've heard several people talk about, and not necessarily this one, but some of those farmers markets up there.
Yeah.
People will it's got sourwood in it, but it's not necessarily all sourwood or 50% sourwood.
Right.
So, but they sell it for it anyway.
Well, no, that's 100% as a fellows. I mean, if a honeybee does a 5 mile radius.
It just had to be 51%.
Yeah.
To be able to call it
sourwood. Yeah. I'm sure some of it is a higher percentage than others, so.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just I got some honey there that's about 18.5%. I'm a little bit concerned about that. I like 17.5 moisture content, but I guess I'll go ahead and put it. I'll mix it with some 16%. Do it that way. It was 19%, and I got it to come down to about 18, or I think it was 18 and a half.
I'll tell you what, Charlie, I do on occasion if I got some that's a little bit too high a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead and put it in my bottling tank and mix it. If it's still running a little bit high, I'll just take a small window fan, put on the top of it. It'll draw it down a percentage or two in 2 or 3 days.
Are you blowing the air up or into the thing?
Down into it.
Hmm.
That's what I'm just telling you what I do. Like I said, I don't try to. But it'll draw it down. You gotta be pretty careful. Make sure you got it pretty tight, because it can, if the fan's a little bit out of balance, it could vibrate off of there. But that's what I do. I got some that's a little bit too high moisture content. I'll just stick a fan on it.
If I catch it in the comb, everything everything that I bought or bucketed, it was 16.5 and 17.5.
Yeah.
The last darn bucket was wet, slightly wet.
You could do it in the bucket too. I'd say it'd probably work that way also. I have decent luck doing it. I'm not telling you that's the answer, but you might think about maybe if you got an old fan around, try it.
Yeah. I've been pulling the honey out of the tank because it's more of a lighter looking honey.
Yeah.
And it's been selling. I don't know, I probably pulled 30 pounds out this week, and it's getting pretty low. So I got 3 buckets in the hot box. I got that higher, and I got a 16% bucket in there. I figured I'd put the 16% in there and mix that 18 in top of it and get it all.
I never heat in my buckets till they go in the. I've got a water jacketed Hilco, bottling tank, 19-gallon one. I just, I'll dump 15 gallon in there, 3 5-gallon buckets, or they're not a full 5-gallon because they, they run through the strainer whenever they get up the strainer up. I put a lid on them. I never touch them. I've got it in my honey. Excuse me. My honey house it runs about 68 to 75 degrees in there, but I never touch it till it goes into the heated bottling tank.
Yeah. All right. I'll be back in a minute.
Just me and you, Joey. Now we're gonna have to think about something to talk about.
Yeah. That's the way I do mine. Every time I bring boxes in, I don't even check it right then. Yeah. I go ahead and stack them up in this honey house here.
Yeah.
And put a fan on top of it.
Yeah.
And let it blow down through there.
I got some running right now that I jerked off today while I was going through some smaller hives. I jerked off 3 or 4 supers before I treated with my Apiguard.
Yeah. And I actually bought a little dehumidifier this year. Caught them on that Amazon Prime Day.
Yeah.
And they had one on sale. It's like a 30 pint one or something like that in a 24-hour period. And it'll get it down. Once it kind of gets everything settled, it'll get it down into the mid 30s.
Really?
Or close. It got close to 20 a couple times.
Well, how big is your honey house that you're running your humidifier in?
It's they call it a 16 by 20.
Okay. Mine's a little larger. Mine's 30 by 40. So it's combination. I even keep my fishing boat in there.
It kind of, it's a JW building, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Kind of
this
a
one.
combination.
So this thing here, when it's not really honey pulling season, it's kind of like a catch-all shed. Anything got to come out of the vehicle.
Yes,
This
sir.
is the closest shed to the truck, and
Mhm.
I go throwing stuff up in here, and it gets so crowded. And finally, I put everything where it really belongs.
So,
But yeah, I try to do that for 1 to 2 days, usually 2 days if I can,
yeah.
and pull it down.
And I do 2 extractions. I pulled about 800 pounds here the first go around. And I'll probably have another 350 to 450 probably that I can pull off of one of
Yeah.
my main production apiary probably, which is I've got I think 15 or 16 hives in it. For some reason I'm getting hoarse.
Huh? You need some honey?
I got to quit this lying.
You need some honey?
Yeah. I was going when you and Charlie was talking. I almost said something. You said you asked him if Charlie still had it. I was going to tell you that I wasn't going to try to start up any trouble, but I think Charlie sold your your bottle that you gave me.
Yeah, he might have did.
He
What's
probably
that?
we get a buck out of it.
What's that?
I told him I was telling Joey I thought you sold the bottle that he traded with you
Yeah.
at Nobby. You know.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Put his label over mine.
Yeah. He asked if he had his number on his label, you know. So I told
I'll
him
have to
you
go in
probably
there. I think I'll have to go in there and see where it's on a table in there that I have where I keep the honeys and stuff. And all. But you got that link there, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work.
so anyway. Well, guys, I'll tell you, I don't know, kind of run out of things to talk about tonight and getting later. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut the chat down, guys. We'll see you next week, same
All right.
time and everything. So we'll see y'all later.